Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's Sunday, and I want to do a weekly review on how my week went. And I know that I haven't done a daily review this week. I just been really busy, so I'm kind of just gonna talk about the whole week here in one sitting. Okay, so Monday started off. You can see the day right there, just a consolidation. Okay, I don't really want to. I don't think I really need to talk about Monday. It was a holiday, and it just kind of consolidated. Tuesday was real nice. Tuesday, the daily chart. I came into Tuesday uh, talking about how the bodies were staying above in that previous week, above that daily fair value gap here. And so to me, that's looking like it's bullish. It's not willing to go any lower. It's sticking around this area and it's closing above the fair value gaps, coming back down using the quadrant levels like the 75% level, the 50% level, 25% level as support. And we also are still inside Thursday's range, so it's a very seek and destroy condition. Um, very tough to trade in these circumstances, but because we're still inside that Thursday's range. Here I'm talking about how the bodies were respecting the 50% level on the 4 hour and the 1 hour chart. That's Monday's range right there, and you can see that Tuesday came down to hit support and then turned higher to find more resistance in the 4 hour rejection block. Alright, here I say that Asia expanded lower to see a reversal at support level during London. New York in blue then brought it higher, and what hinted to this happening was the fact that New York refused to leave the balanced price range from Thursday's range. Now I talk about the pink lined fair value gap. This was a balanced gap and not an area I wanted to see price hang around at. This gave me an idea to see distribution higher to Monday's high, the session where distribution of the manipulation for Tuesday was higher. Therefore, I would like to see tomorrow Q3 oppose this manipulation higher and seek discount pricing. What I'm saying here is that basically the Asia and London session set up for this distribution higher, and the majority of the day was designed to distribute higher. Okay, that's that blue part. That's like where the most important stuff is. That's the 9:30 open. That's the 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. session, where that's the morning session and the most popular one. Most people are on trading, so most of the movement's gonna occur during this cycle because it's the third cycle, the Q3, and that's what everything, the whole day sets up for. And that was bullish. It was higher. Therefore, I see this as a bullish day. So this manipulation above or below, if you're questioning if it's a manipulation above or below Monday's consolidation, it's actually above. So we have A, which is accumulation, M, manipulation higher, and then we're looking to have D, which is distribution lower, to oppose that move higher. Also, there's a 1 hour order block here, and mean threshold is 50%. So we trade into that during London session, hit it one more time during the AM session, and then we run higher. So seeing as how London had traded lower to a discount level, which is the 1 hour order block, with Q1 of the AM session 6 to 7:30 expanding higher, expanded higher back into the balanced price range, lower pricing was out of the question. So what I'm saying here is that London traded lower down to the order block and mean threshold. That's the move at 3 a.m. that did it, and I'm highlighting this move because I'm using it as a dealing range. So I see that price is unwilling to use this range to leave, and this is very similar to the daily chart, how we see that fair value gap on the daily chart, how we're not wanting to leave and we're closing above it and we're coming back, we're using it as support. So support, one more time, digging lower, hitting that order block, and then running higher. Right, so I am seeing how the first quarter of the 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. session, which is, 6 a.m. to 12, which is the AM session, which is the Q1 is 6 a.m. to 7:30. It only went higher. It just shot up, okay, above that now balanced price range. So to me, I'm wanting to see accumulation. Every time you see an expansion in the quarterly theory, if one of the quarters expand, always expect the next quarter to accumulate or part of it to accumulate. It doesn't always do that. Sometimes it continues to go higher. Sometimes it'll reverse, but usually you want to see an accumulation. If you do see an accumulation, there is more likely to be a trade idea that you can use, and if a model is going to fit into it. If it reverses or continues, then maybe it just means that there's no trade. But to me, if I see an accumulation, I like to see that because it would mean a trade idea most of the times. So then we accumulate during 7:30 to 9, and then 9 to 10:30 runs lower and then higher within the same cycle. One more time to the order block underneath this accumulation. So this is a manipulation and a distribution inside the same cycle. And then you have AMDX inside that blue cycle there. That's the blue cycle, you see, and then I'm splitting up into 4 more quarters. So AMDX cycle present during AM session. You have accumulation, and then you have manipulation lower. So we do go above and below here. So I need to clear my throat. We do go above and below here, and then one more time below during Q3. So this is not exactly the AMDX cycle, but the logic is still there. When I see that price went below and then hit the order block here, that's basically what I was targeting from this high up there. It then comes back and then it goes higher, and this is how it looks like. This was my execution for that morning. There's 4 plays. 1, 2, 3 are all the same idea. The idea is the same for all those levels. That in the 22-minute cycle from 9:22.5 to 9:45, she wants to manipulate lower so I can look for shorting ideas. So that's the cycle here, Q2 to Q3. The first trade above the short-term high inside Q3 qualified the breaker and is a resistance idea. So this short-term high here, we're inside of Q3. We went higher during Q1, higher during Q2. We've accumulated, right? Found a bit of resistance here. This looks like a bull flag, but I know that we want to see manipulation during 9:22 to 9:45, and my bias is higher. So if I want to see some manipulation and my bias is higher and we went higher and we're inside Q3, high probability shorts. Okay, so turtle soup short, bam, runs lower. Now you have a breaker, so now it's very high probability. I always wait for a breaker to be formed, and then that's another entry there at the breaker, runs over, and then that's a 30-second gap. You see there's a very small gap here on the 15-second chart, and that's another opportunity to go short and bring it lower one more time. And then price reverses only in the next cycle. That's why I could trust going short here. We weren't done this X cycle. We were still continuing from the previous cycle because we had not yet hit any sell side liquidity or discount level. And we hit the discount level right, I believe it was right here before running higher. So I could have held on to it a little bit more, but I only looked for 15 points. Or sorry, 30 points. 30 points, that's it. A 2 hour, 15, 30. 15 stop and 30 TP. It reverses, turtle soup long, down to the order block. Notice how it looks, it's very similar. You get a breaker entry, and then you get another entry off a fair value gap before it really runs off, or many actually, before it runs off, higher to the buy side liquidity. In the PM session, there was a nice market maker buy model. PM session kind of traded within itself using the lunch range. So we have lunch, which kind of accumulated. We had 1:30, which went lower, and then 3 o'clock, which finished off the reversal from 1:30 above these relative equal highs here, which are all these highs from lunch. This is how it looks like. So you have the lunch, which accumulates. I don't trade lunch. And then you have it run lower during Q1, continue during Q2, hit a 15-minute bullish fair value gap, discount level. You see it reverse, and then I looked for trades now in Q3, and to continue into Q4, continuing to steam the reversal, right? The continuation from the reversal in Q4, and then because we see an expansion, it accumulates again, and it runs during Q3 again into the close above buy side liquidity. These relative equal highs here, and because I didn't want to hold it all afternoon, I only looked to sell at these relative equal highs, Now, this is going to look very similar if I go down to the even lower time frame. And I can split up all these cycles from Q2 to Q3. I can split them up to 4 more quarters here, 4 more quarters here, and then use that to qualify my trade. And I believe, I don't know if I show it. No, I don't show it, but this is how it looked like on the 15-second chart. I saw price coming lower down to discount. I noted this range from high to low, which is the same as 3 a.m. run lower here. This is a market maker buy model within itself too. So this run lower down to a discount level, that's basically the same thing down here that I noted from high to low, that run lower. And then we get above it. Now I'm wanting this whole range to act as support because it's resistance. Or sorry, it's balanced. There's also a breaker. This qualified the breaker, so it could have been turtle soup long here. And then you see how price now is respecting these fair value gaps over here, which are inversed because it's balanced. It has no need to go lower. One more time running higher and accumulating before finally running off. And I start taking profit when it really starts to run off above these relatively equal highs. Okay, and I don't think there's much else talk about this day. But Tuesday was a really nice day. It was very fast, very tough to trade in my opinion because it was a lot of wicks and maybe a bit seek and destroy. I don't know about seek and destroy, but hope this kind of made sense. I would go into your own charts and everything I just showed you, put it on your own chart, right? Like this fair value gap, put it on your own chart, and then you'll get a better understanding if you just look at it from your own chart. Okay, Wednesday. So today, Q3 of the week distributed lower to previous Thursday's low, exactly like I wanted to see, which is the range which she was still trading within. Now we've hit sell-side liquidity, and I'm noting that the bodies, look at where the bodies are, they're still above 50%. So now the bodies did close inside the fair value gap, but they're still above 50%. And we've traded all the way to the low of the fair value gap, refusing to trade any lower to any of the lower gaps. And we've come all the way back above 50%. That's still bullish to me. If I had seen the body close closer to the one whole level or 75%, that could be bearish because we're trading underneath half of that and closing underneath half of that fair value gap. But the fact that we went all the way through it and then came all the way back up and closed above 50%, that to me is still bullish. And we still have a lot of liquidity at Thursday's high because we were still trading inside Thursday's range come Wednesday or the beginning of Wednesday. So almost the whole week we were inside that range. So there's still a lot of liquidity at the high. And I love how nicely Tuesday manipulated above Monday's high and then distributed lower towards sell side liquidity today. This is exactly what I wanted to see, except she didn't take out Tuesday's high, creating a triple top formation. It's okay, my bias was still met. So yeah, I was waiting for something Tuesday. I wanted to see price around 6 a.m. continue go higher above this high and create. To be honest, that should have been something that would have occurred during Asia or London. By the time the morning session came, it was too late to expect that. And it just continued to run lower down to sell side liquidity. What I wanted to see was a turtle soup short down to sell side liquidity. So I wanted price in Asia or London to run one more time above the high into the rejection block and then go lower to sell side liquidity and then go higher if it didn't trade above Thursday's high. But that's all right because I was still looking for a bearish day, and it still happened. And I didn't trade London or Asia. I got up at 6 a.m. and I just chose not to trade. I really like how Q3 of the morning session was the cycle which distributed lower with how Q2 had traded. I did not expect this to be manipulation, and this canceled my idea to trade to a new week high today. So what I'm saying here is because, yes, I was expecting a new high to be formed right above this high, above Asia and London. Well, I'm not expecting, but I wanted to see if it would take out the high before going to the low. But it was so close to the low, it had went lower during London and Asia. It came back on London's range, did an OTE, optimal trade entry, or went to this order block, whichever you want. It reversed during Q2, and then it displaced from that order block. So I can use that 15-minute SIBI, by the way, as a means to look for trades in the smaller time frame. kind of qualify the trade. So that would be like my higher time frame PD array. Something similar happened in the PM session, price being so overextended higher during her Q2 that it canceled the idea of manipulation and replicated its movement in Q3. It traded to the gap in blue, left it, showing no willingness to go any lower to any of the breakaway gaps, and she continued higher. So this is the afternoon session. This is this afternoon session. So basically what I'm saying here is it's price being so overextended in Q2. So yeah, I'm talking about how it's similar over here. When it accumulated, you can see this as accumulation, but it's not so much accumulation. It kind of just went lower, but you can see it as accumulation, and then it ran higher, and you think this is manipulation, but because of how much higher it ran, way above these highs, and it didn't really give you a total soup and didn't really reverse and then show you displacement lower. It's just continuing to show you displacement higher, and we have higher time frame levels to go hit, and we're now bullish on the bias. We're not expecting this to be manipulation to distribution. Again, bias is very important here. Higher time frame bias and the way the cycles are moving on the higher time frame is important. I'm not looking at the hourly chart necessarily. I mean, I could go on the hourly chart over here and say that, oh, the hour order block, don't expect this to be manipulation because the probability of it being manipulation is lower or higher because there's an order block or whatever there is. No, I'm looking at the higher time frame cycle. I noted how Q3 today, Wednesday, should be a bearish day. I looked at the daily profile for the quarterly theory, and it should be going lower, bearish. And so now I'm able to have a better understanding of how this order block should be used or the OTE entry should be used. And so that's why when you see this get hit and we're expecting a bearish day and London Asia went lower, you don't want to see this as manipulation. You just want to sit on your hands. And then you get a confirmation that sell side liquidity got hit, and now you can be bullish because we've hit the sell side liquidity. You can look for longs after we hit it. It's the same thing here. If I'm not expecting, if this went lower beneath lunch range and went higher above lunch range, and then it's retracing and back into this balanced price range, right? No, from high to low, that's the level that went lower to hit a discount. Now it's completely bounced, price leaves it. You don't really want it to come back too much. Okay. This is in the morning. This white fair value gap is just refined from the 15-minute SIBI. Okay, so I'm just refining that there. And then this is the lower time frame. That's the white fair value gap here. So you see Q1 went higher, reversing during Q2. News hit one more time, goes higher to the rejection block to seek more premium. Then it runs lower towards outside liquidity, accumulates right above it. Could be a rejection block. And then one more time goes lower. Q3 is when the reversal happens. So you reverse during Q3. And then 10:07, 10:30, which is a Q4 and X cycle, what do you expect? You've hit sell side liquidity. You've seen Q3 fail to continue going lower and instead create a market shift. You would expect longs. So now you're seeing, okay, Q4, where can I be buying here? Where can I retrace? There's a breaker here. There's a fair value gap there. And there's an order block here. 3 ideas that I would use to go long. But you see, you split up the Q4, and when do you have the highest probability entry? You don't even need to worry about where to enter, where to buy that fair value gap, the order block, the breaker. You don't need to worry about all that stuff. What happens is it runs during Q3. I mean, you could literally, or well, more specific, Q4. You could literally buy during Q3 and buy again during Q4 without even worrying about where you're entering. But yeah, so you have accumulation, manipulation, distribution lower during Q3. So not buy during Q3, sorry, because you know that this was a manipulation and you're expecting distribution during Q3. And since now the bias is higher, you're staying out of this distribution lower and manipulation higher. You're instead buying Q4 conveniently at this fair value gap, runs higher, comes back one more time, runs higher, and then continues to go higher. That summarizes Wednesday. Thursday was not a bad day too. And then Thursday was 4, the X cycle. So I hinted all week how the bodies were respecting the fair value gap highlighted. Wednesday also seemed okay, that's typo. Thursday's low end ran higher quickly towards buy side liquidity. But basically what I said earlier. So now I have buy side liquidity up here. This is when I was expecting that run now to buy side liquidity. It's beautiful how this week played out. Monday accumulated, Tuesday manipulating higher, Wednesday distributing lower, Thursday reversing. You can also see this as Tuesday accumulation, Wednesday manipulation, Thursday distribution. I don't choose to subscribe to that, but I know some people have been posting that, saying that that's how it was this week. So I'm also noting the breakaway gap here. That's bullish to me if we were leaving this breakaway gap. And it's telling me that, okay, it's not willing to retrace. It left this down close candle, refused to trade down here, and then left it, went higher again, make a new high. That's bullish to me, and I'm expecting this to stay open. So look how price bounced out its range from low to high. Price only retraced to an unbalanced gap seen in blue lines. So this is right here, the blue lines. And candles are completely filling out this range down here. This is a fair value gap there that you see inside the pink lines. You can see it where my mouse is. But there's also a fair value gap here, which is a balanced price range. So I'm ignoring that. I'm just looking at anything above this run from high to low, which is a balanced price range. Again, that run high to low, that's my dealing range I'd be trading with. I showed something similar on, I believe it was Tuesday, in the PM session and the AM session. I talked about the run from high to low, which is balanced, and then when price gets above that, I want to see that be support, and there's also a breaker. So you can also just see it as a breaker. I think it's easier to see it by looking at that run from high to low in a dealing range instead of just using the breaker, because the breaker always pops up. Almost everything's a breaker when I first started using breakers. But yeah, candles completely filling out the range and only leaving this gap here, which price retraces to, fills completely, and then creates the breakaway gap. Okay, that's when it creates breakaway gap, then it leaves. Or no. This is when the hourly down close candle that refused to go into the breakaway gap. And this is the 15-minute chart for reference. Okay, so here, I'll just try and break this down here. So we get this is the Asia session, London session going lower. Price retracing for an OTE entry. Oh, this is the previous Thursday. Okay, so this is the 5-minute chart just to view all the support levels I was paying attention to. So there's a 50-minute bullish fair value gap there. And then there is a refined 5-minute gap from the 15-minute bullish fair value gap. You get an order block here that leaves the higher time frame fair value gap. And then you get a smaller gap there and here that leaves the order block. Okay, now you don't want to just be buying any of these until you're lined up with the time in the cycles. So seeing Q3 reversing lower beneath Q1 gave me enough to start hunting a long setup to trade the bigger buy side liquidity. So Q3, I'm watching Q1. I see Q2 run higher above this high. I believe I have trading this price action live video. I want to do more of those, but I don't always have the time or remember to do so. So, well, I just thought about it, to be honest, recently. So we run higher and then we reverse lower back to the order block, and then Q4 is when it runs. So because Q2 went higher and we started accumulating and consolidating, I'm not necessarily looking for Q3 to continue running higher. Instead, I'm waiting for Q4, and you see, because there was no manipulation. When I don't see manipulation, I see an expansion like this, I never try to trade in Q3 if the move is, if it's not manipulation, which means if it went to in the favor of my bias. So it went higher, which is with my bias. So I don't trade Q3. I expect accumulation. It started accumulating, then it went lower. I'm like, okay, it went lower. Oh, it's hitting a higher time frame level. Oh, okay, it's Q4. Oh, okay. And then I went to the lower time frame. Oh, I see a breaker, a fair value gap. Oh, okay, this is high probability. And then I bought at the top of the breaker, 15 point stop loss, 30 point TP. And that's 60 points for the week. That afternoon trade with a bunch of executions. That was a paper trade. So yeah, that's the logic there. And I hope that oh, there's one more day. I didn't trade Friday. That's why I thought it was done. So yeah, Friday finished off the week with the biggest bull day, way above buy side liquidity, and now we're at an all-time high. Now I don't really see this as bearish at all. Like, I know the buy side liquidity, I see liquidity as support and resistance. So if this was an order block and price went this far up into the order block, what would you be expecting? You'd be expecting higher prices, right? So this is exactly what I'm expecting. This showed no resistance. This was not a turtle soup short because of how high it went, and there's nothing else to target. So to be honest here, I'd be focusing my attention more on dollar, other indices, maybe other markets that could indicate a reversal. And in this, I mean, I would just be taking every single buy signal until it fills. I mean, that there's nothing really to target. It's just going to go up until it goes up and stops doing so. So there was a bullish order block. It's going to, you see how Asia went higher and then it retraced into Asia and then went higher during London and then retraced or an OTE entry or the order block, right? You can use, I don't really like to use OTE. I just too many lines on my chart when I do that, but yeah, I rather just use this order block. But you can also see this as an OT entry, and it runs higher. OT using London session, so the London range from low to high, and it runs higher, and then expanding greatly in the afternoon. Okay, and this is kind of like the how the Q3, you can see this as a reversal, how like it failed to go lower and it reverses. So when you see Q3 go lower against your bias, so you could maybe see as accumulation, manipulation, and distribution. Maybe this could just be a loss. But to me, because this is an all-time high, I really wouldn't be trading until I see a significant market shift on the higher time frame, like the hourly chart above, and there is none here. So I wouldn't really be looking for shorts. Okay, here's the smaller time frame levels. Dashed lines, that's the London session. Dashed blue lines, that's the AM session. Dashed purple lines, that's the PM session. Asia session is dashed red. So we bounced off an order block on the 15-minute chart and distributed during the blue cycle, consolidating during the purple cycle, more consolidation during the red, trading to low and high during the green cycle, and then distributing lower down to the hourly order block, the discount level, and then reversing during the purple cycle, and then just completely going bananas during the PM session, which, to be honest, I don't even want to look at the PM session. There was not, like, with how lunch traded, I don't really want to look at the PM session. It's the end of the week. It's a Friday. I mean, Friday PM session has never been good for me. I don't know. It's the end of the week. I don't think many people are trading there. Usually just consolidates. This is kind of crazy. Alright, so starting at London, at 3 a.m. I used the 15-minute bullish short value gap to qualify my setup. I am pleased to have seen the time she decided to run is in Q3, sending her much higher and creating a range to work within heading into the AM session. So here, Q3 expanding higher. I expect what? Next cycle to be potential consolidation. So I see consolidation or accumulation. And then Q1 comes back to a discount level, accumulates. When does it really start to run? Q3. So it hits the discount level one more time, and Q3, bam, starts to run. You can look for anything you want, like the volume imbalance, order block, inverse fair value gap, breakers, whatever you want. The time is lining up. And it runs again, reverses during Q4. AM session, I liked how she retraced the OT levels. This is exactly what I wanted to see, seeing as how London was bullish, having taken no buy side liquidity because we were at all-time highs. In this case, I should not take every buy signal until one fails. So yeah, so because I'm noting that how price took an all-time high and it kind of stayed there all night. It didn't just quickly run lower. I'm seeing this as bullish and it's hitting the hourly order block and it's showing support. Okay, so keep this in mind. And this is a lot of consolidation here. But you get a turtle soup short, you get Q1 that accumulates, manipulates, and then you want to see distribution. You do see distribution, then reverses within the same cycle. So now what do you expect here is back at a higher time frame support level. I waited here during Q4. I was tape reading and I didn't take a single trade throughout this whole range because this was just kind of crazy. Like with all the wicks and how Q3 reversed on itself. I just waited. I saw this. This is baby food. I saw this and then I'm like, no. And then when it became Q1, I saw this whole thing as accumulation and this was a whole reversal. And I'm like, okay, if it's going to run, it's going to be at Q1. It's going to be the next 1030 cycle. And it did. And I was looking at this small gap, that down close candle there right at the Q1. I was looking at that gap and I'm like, okay, I would want to be buying off of this. So yeah, when it closed into it, I wanted to be buying and it did, and it kept going higher. That would have been a 30 points if I had wanted to. And yeah, so I guess there's nothing else to talk about for this week. We had a pretty nice week. You can read my notes here.